All right, welcome to another episode of Real Estate vs. Technology. I'm your main host. I'm Lloyd Kinsey III. We have our co-host, Dan Gandy. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for everyone who's tuning in right now. We just want to encourage you. We're not going to give you a huge, I've been watching some podcasts, Dan, and they give like a big laundry list of go here, do this, do that. Hey, we're going to keep it here. We're going to keep it simple. Liftoff Agent's a sponsor. Subscribe, comment below with what you learned. Let's get into this. So today we're going all the way to Florida. I'm super excited for this one. This guy over here is crushing it with his reels. He caught our attention. We're like, I think he should be on the podcast. He can add some value to our viewers and listeners. So we're going to go to Florida. We're talking girl and cat, dad plus husband. You'll learn more about that by going to his Instagram profile down below. But Chad, welcome to Real Estate vs. Technology. How's your day going?
What's up, guys? Thank you. I'm doing great. How y'all doing?
Dude, doing amazing. I'm doing better because I have my water. I had to run off air to get my water because we had Dan with his liquid death, and it's not beer.
We're gonna get sponsored by him. We're good.
Yeah. And then Chad brought over his water. I was like, all right, I need to get my water. So today's episode is all about you, Chad. So we just want to jump into, how long you've been in the business and why real estate?
It's a great question. No, I've been in business for 4 years now. I think like most agents, lived a lot of different lives before real estate and just never really liked anything that I was doing.
Okay.
Felt very unfulfilled and kind of unhappy, in my jobs. And real estate was something that I always kind of flirted with. And I just never got the courage to kind of go for it and make it happen. And then finally, just before 5 years ago, my wife finally said, if you don't go get your license, I'm going to go get my license. So she made me do it, but she was right. And I never looked back. Couldn't be happier.
Wow. I love it. So to this day, has she gotten her license?
No, she just knew that would make me go get it. She knew she wasn't going to go get her license.
That's awesome. That's super, super cool. I love it. So then as far as starting out to where you're at now, did you join a team traditionally? Are you just been on your own the whole time, just with the broker? What does that look like?
Yeah, I've always been kind of a solo agent. So when I first started out, one of my very best friends, his parents are were brokers at the time, and I joined with them. And I was always kind of on my own. They helped me out. I was a part-time agent. I was working full-time for the first 2.5 years of having my license. But I was always largely on my own, never got leads or anything like that. Always have really built through social media.
Wow, that's awesome. So what was the thing that you did that was not the thing that you wanted to do, that you work part-time to now get where you're at?
I was working in I was working at a nonprofit in a finance office, and I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not a finance guy at all. Yeah, it was terrible. Good, kind people, and it was a great experience, but it was just not for me.
I love it. That's awesome. So that's cool. We actually just had someone on the show that was more go with a broker, start with that, be under a team and what have you. And I love how this is the complete contrast to that. So let's deep dive a little bit into when you got started, how did you actually start getting yourself out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, from the jump, I always knew that before I even got the license, in my licensing class, I knew that it was going to be social media. I knew that, because, I've got a family, I had a full-time job, I wasn't going to be able to do some of the things I would like to do or that I could be doing, to traditionally grow your real estate career. But I wasn't able to jump in full time and do those things. So I knew that social media was going to be it.
Nice.
That it had to be. And we were also new to the area. So we had just moved to Central Florida from South Florida within the year or two before. So didn't really have a network of people here. didn't really have really any friends at all to speak of. So I knew that for me to get my name out, it was going to have to be in a way that I could do it while I was still working full time and without sacrificing every minute of time with my family too, because that also wasn't an option for me. So I knew that social media was going to be the way that I could make that happen.
Wow, that's amazing. And there's so many different lanes and things that you could do with it. And I absolutely love that approach. So, Dan might go a little bit more deeper into, follow the guy, 10,000 plus followers. You're crushing it on Reels. What's a success story that you have for someone who's out there listening that might want to get into utilizing social media to generate more business or just generate business in general? Like, what was a success story? Like from a Reel or a DM? Like, what happened?
Yeah, most of my business has come from Instagram.
Wow.
My first listing actually was somebody who followed me, who referred me to a friend of theirs to list their house locally. So it wasn't even the person that followed me, but it was one of their friends because she was following me, and I guess I gave the perception that I knew what I was doing enough that referred a friend of hers to me. So it's not just the people that you're connected to, but it's also who are they connected to. It's not just that follower count. Each of those followers has dozens of people, hundreds of people in their life that they're connected to. So you never know.
Yeah.
But, I think over time, that consistency in being out there, what I've found is that most of the people that contact me to work with them, and I this is not true of just me, but I know of other agents that do social media too, that people get to know you through your social media. So the time that they're watching you, they're making the decision all along the way. And when they pick up the phone or they DM you to start working with you, they've already made the decision. It's rarely an interview. It's a, hey, I'm ready to buy. Hey, I'm ready to sell. They've already made that decision before they've contacted you. So it 100% works. It does take time.
Yeah.
But, on the encouragement side, a lot of those people are kind of making that decision passively and not having that conversation along the way. So I think people get discouraged when they're not getting a lot of all the interaction that they are hoping for, but you never know what's happening that you're not seeing.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Absolutely love that. So then the last question I have before we get into the mix-up round, and this will tie in going into that round with tech. So what has been the one thing that you adapted to and maybe evolved over years? Because I know that Instagram's been around for probably more than 4 years since you got in the business, but I know Facebook was probably huge when you first got in. So what did that look like for you? What did you have to evolve until now from when you first got in?
Yeah, really, Instagram has always been the bread and butter. I've been on Facebook and stuff, but it's never really been, I've never had much of a presence there, frankly, because I haven't spent time there.
Yeah.
But Instagram it's just been the easier platform for me, and I prefer it. So I think that's because it's where I like to be. It's more natural for me to do that. And then in terms of adapting, Instagram has changed so much. In the last 4 years, at that time, the Reels was not a thing. TikTok, these short-term videos, this was not a part of what we did. So I think that's really been the biggest thing that's changed, is doing content like that short form video content, which at first I was petrified to do, and I felt I'm too old for this. I feel very stupid doing this. I don't like it. But once you got used to it, it's been very effective in terms of staying in front of followers and growing the following too.
Wow. Look at your videos here before I hand it off to you, Dan, for the mix-up round. I'm seeing one with 500,000 views. That's huge. To hit 500,000, you can't call 500,000 people. You can't send out 500,000 mailers without spending a lot of money.
I was going to say, there's not even 500,000 people in any database in any real estate agent's office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was kind of my idea behind it, and how I coach some of the agents that I work with too, is that even if it's a lot lower than that, let's say it's 50, are you going to make 50 contacts a day? Probably not. Maybe if you're awesome, but the reality is it's a new set of eyes that you otherwise wouldn't be in front of. And it's just a huge opportunity, and it's free. It's free.
Free.
Hey, if anything, you're actually making money off the platform.
100%.
100%. because they're making money off of all of us and all our user data and everything else. So, hey, you might as well just use it to make money yourself. It's like,
Exactly.
I love it. That's super cool. I love it. I'm going to change up the camera angle, give it off to Dan for the mix up round, get a little bit more into the tech behind what you're doing, Chad.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So I think one of the questions before we deep dive into video is like, just overall, is there any tech that you're using to keep your business organized, just structured, that you could share with the audience that may help a real estate agent really start to become more efficient in this business?
I mean, for me, in terms of like organization, my CRM, I have everything in there, and I kind of, I'm probably not as diligent on maintaining it as I should be or could be, but that is where I keep that as tight as I can and clean as possible, just to kind of work through and make sure that I'm making the appropriate touches and, you know, all that.
Love it.
Love it. That's awesome. Just in general, I think, what is the best advice you could give people with your success with Instagram and audience growth that are like maybe just like 1, 2, 3 quick things that somebody could start today in order to start building that momentum that you've had with success?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to start today.
Yes,
you know,
let's go.
There's so many agents that want to use social media and want to figure it out and want whatever secret it is. But the reality is that there is no secret. Like there's 100 different ways to be successful in real estate, and there's just as many ways to utilize social media to be successful in real estate. You know, there's a lot of different agents that do things very different. None of them are right or wrong necessarily, you know, it's just different people. So I think the most important thing is just to freaking do it. And the reality is that if you're going to treat social media as a primary funnel of business, and if that's the goal, then it's a non-negotiable part of your day. Like you have to be on there, you have to show up, you have to post. Like it or not, get over it, you've got to do it. And that consistency is key. And it does take time. So I think that especially in the last 2 years, when there's been such explosive growth of real estate agents, you know, everybody, it seems like, has their real estate license. People are looking for that consistency. So if you're not posting consistently and reminding people about what you're doing, I think that a lot of people probably assume that you're either failing or you've quit. And so you don't want to inadvertently signal that by not showing up on a consistent basis. And I think that so many times agents do that by kind of helicopter posting. You just can't do that if you're expecting the business to come.
We've been preaching that for years. I think that there's a lot of experienced agents in this business that have a big book of business and they work off their sphere and their referrals. But I think the biggest shift that we've seen in the last 2 years is when COVID hit, right? And you weren't like going out to dinner with people and going through that. You're over here shooting reels with 10,000, followers, and they're sitting in their office talking to 3 to 5 to 10 people a day, maybe on the phone. So
100%.
I think I see a success pattern that you're going to have as you grow your network. Now, one question I had, in terms of the video content and how you plan that out, do you do like a brainstorming session that you calendar every week? Do you write it on Trello boards? Like, we've heard of many different ways people organize that, but how do you know what you're going to shoot next?
I don't. I'm so unorganized about it. I'd love to say that I have kind of a process and a structure around it. Frankly, I don't. I do spend time every day kind of scrolling through reels, and there's a lot of different there's a lot of Instagram accounts that post a lot of the trending audio and different ideas and things that you can do. So there's a lot of accounts that I follow that are inside and outside of real estate, just kind of see what is trending, kind of what's going on. And then I do store those things up. I do keep a list of different ideas for reels, whether it's situations that we run into or kind of questions that are pretty consistent that we get from clients. Because as real estate agents, we all get the same sort of questions pretty consistently. So we know what people are thinking about and wanting to know. And then I just am constantly looking at stuff and seeing what can marry, basically. And I do them like one off. I would love to say I batch and stuff like that. I don't. I literally and just like, all right, I have 30 minutes right now. I'm gonna throw one together and hope for the best.
I think as your skill level increases and your credibility increases, not only by audience count, but by the creativity and some of these view counts you have on your reels, your ability to beta test and your confidence to beta test is actually what makes you more successful, because you're not fearful of like, oh, I got to structure this all out and bullet point it out. You're like, no, let me just go roll into this.
100%. Yeah.
Like
yeah. There's some that do great that you were like, are you serious? Like, that's so stupid. And then there's others that, you really put a lot of thought and effort into that you really, and like this is gonna pop, and it just falls flat. But yeah, I think that it doesn't matter, like it's the point is just continuing to do it. And you never know, like, just like it takes one person to buy a house. If one person sees the reel and it resonates with them and it causes a connection and a follow, who's to say it wasn't a success?
Mm-hmm. It's that splintering effect, I think, in building your circle and all of the circles that come from that in terms of people. Like you said, one of those first deals wasn't the person who actually was following you. It was the person who was like, hey, you should reach out to this person. I've been enjoying his content, and I think he would be a good match. So I think before I hand it over to Norm, I think the biggest point that what I've heard from you is that be confident and take chances and just do it. And if you do it consistently, it's the macro result that is going to lead to more business. It's not the constant overthinking and confidence that you're lacking in. I think that's the biggest thing. We have some amazing agents as customers, and we were like, you would be amazing on video. And then like, they're just like, no, I don't do video. And you're like, the potential to evolve in this business is just limited.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, your confidence doesn't come necessarily from your skill level. It comes from the repetition.
Yes.
And the repetition is what builds the skill level eventually. So your first videos, they suck. They're terrible. Yeah, you do sound crazy. It doesn't look good, but that's okay. They're not going to get better until you start doing them.
Yep.
100%. No, that's great info. Thanks again. Pass it over to Norm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love that mix-up round. Thanks so much, Dan, for taking it off. And to kind of unpack that, Chad, I got to say that like, I resonate with you personally. So, and I'm sure there's viewers and listeners out there that do the same. Being organized, I get it. You need to be organized. You have to have a structure, a plan to a certain extent. I'm right there with you. That's Dan and I are yin and yang. I'm the kind of on the fly guy. I'm just like you, love to be on the fly. I'm like, okay, like literally we back-to-back filming today for the podcast. And so I was just like, oh, podcast. All right, got to go. So I just posted a reel as we're sitting here, and I love going and just randomly like posting content before a meeting. And then you go into the meeting and you leave the meeting and you're like, oh, okay, that one was a hitter. Great. And then, and then you answer some comments or whatever. And then you get back to the people that asked you some questions or whatever the comments were. And then you move on. So I love how you said that in the mix-up round, that you just like, I have this time slot. Let me maximize the opportunity and then move on from that. And I think that that's what Instagram does for a lot of individuals moving forward, is it gives you the ability to be flexible and to be able to fill in every single gap. And like, if you're not posting, I mean, I know I do this, I'm sure you probably as well. You're going through and you're liking and you're commenting and you're doing your outreach and then seeing who's watching your stories and like, I could push this back out to my story really quick, this reel I did yesterday, and see if I can get some additional viewerships on it or whatever. It's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love that. I have to ask you a question. And this is a question that I haven't asked anyone before. And I see your views, and I just want viewers and listeners to understand this. Like, you have some amazing views, and a lot of them are people that are kind of like hits the algorithm, they see it and then they fall off. And then, you do build a consistent base. Like your consistent base looks like it's like 5, 6, 8, 7,000 people. And then you have some big hitters. What does it look like on your stories for your story view count? I'm really curious.
That honestly, it really depends. And it's funny because that's something that I've actually been playing with.
Okay.
Right now it's about 500 to 600.
Wow.
Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's a little bit more. So there's always like different hacks and different things that you can do to kind of reset it. One of the things that I've heard recently is to let all your stories expire and then keep it empty for 24 hours and then come back again. Yeah. And I have done that the last couple of weeks. Like I've pretty much stopped posting by around midday on Saturday and then not come back again until Monday. And I've actually seen that really help to drive up. And honestly, too, for me, it's kind of refreshing too, because I don't have to, it's not the constant thinking about what to post, but that's pretty much where the baseline is. Like I said, sometimes less, sometimes more.
I love that. I love that. We never asked that question before, Real Estate First Tech, so it's nice to kind of deep dive a little bit more into that. And for anyone who's listening out there, I mean, to think about it like this, like if you have a database and a CRM system, which you do, Chad, for someone to be able to open up and have an open rate of 500, 600 people to see your email newsletter, you get a 2-3% open rate. I mean, you're getting 500 to 600 people that are now like, they're your fans. They're raving fans wanting to see what you're up to, see what you're doing based off of the short form, quick video content you do on the fly. So for anyone listening out there, it's so freaking important for them to take this in consideration and be like, wow, like, let me really be able to think about like this for my own business. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's really important for a lot of people out there that's listening. Awesome. Well, I got a couple last questions and we'll open up the floor to you to just leave anything for our viewers and listeners. I think that is from a positioning standpoint on the video content. I know you just do it on the fly and you look for like content that's going to be relative to what's going on and could be trending or could be like the music or whatever the case may be. Have you thought about or have you done videos around like that ideal area that you serve or the ideal buyer or seller that you want to work with to kind of give more context around that type of content?
Probably not the way that I should, frankly,
no worries.
That's not a great answer, but honestly, no.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. I was just curious. I know some agents do like the area expert thing and they film content around that, or, some agents, they all have their own different approach. You're
talking about like being like the mayor of my city.
Yeah.
That type of deal. Yeah. I haven't really. I have posted some area specific content. And I think one of the things that I saw happening is when I initially started Instagram, I had pretty much only local followers. But then what happened when I started doing Reels, that's where I really started to see a lot of growth. And a lot of that growth was not through local people. And a lot of it was not consumers, it was other agents. That's where I reevaluated kind of like what I was doing and some of the content. And it is consumer facing, but I am also mindful that part of my audience is no longer just people that are local to me, but it's also real estate agents and how to leverage that.
I love that.
But to your point though, I should be posting more local content. And that is, if I had a goal board, it would be on my goals.
I love that. All right. So the last question I have is that, have you ever had anyone reach out to you from Instagram, which you've had, that asked for like, hey, can you do like a fun video or something in my house? Like, have you had anyone that asked that kind of question? I know, like, Matt Leninetti, the singing realtor, he's done like a lot of really cool content, which you two kind of have like almost like a similar vibe, like in a sense. And I wasn't sure. Did anyone ever ask you to do anything fun?
No, but they should.
Okay.
And I would.
Okay.
If you're in Central Florida.
If you're in Central Florida
and you want to work with Chad, I'll link you down below and ask him to do a really fun video around a listing or a house. I think I could see that for you. I could see you doing a fun, cool video around a client's house or whatever, or even you could do a fun, cool video around like a client testimonial and like throw them in your video or something. I don't know. I'm just brain.
Yeah, no, the testimonial, I like that. And that's actually one of the things that I've thought about as well that I need to incorporate for sure.
That's super, super cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, man, we're going to go ahead and change up the camera angle. All eyes on you. Chad, what would you like our viewers and listeners to take from today's episode?
Well, I think the biggest thing, there's a couple things with social media. I think number one is that people are really focused on content production, which is really important. That's what people are going to stay for. But what builds the relationship is what you're putting out, like the way that you're interacting with people. So that interaction is so important, because at the end of the day, it's social media. It's a relationship. You're building relationship with people. So part of that happens passively through your content, where people are, maybe not finding you on Instagram, but they're deep diving you on social media, and they're going to go and consume a lot of your stuff. And when they're doing that, they're building relationship with you. They're building trust. They're hopefully liking you by doing that. And that's important, but it's also really important, not only to build that trust, but also to feed the algorithm and to increase that follower count, is to be reaching out to people. And by communicating, being that proactive communicator in terms of leaving thoughtful messages, actually commenting on people, being outbound, not just receiving the content.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing too is just being consistent. I think that's something that we talk about all the time, but I don't know what it is for some people. I think maybe if it's fear or if it's insecurity, but sitting inaction doesn't cure any of that. The only way to get over that is by going through it, and it's by doing it. And there's no one that's going to do it for you. You cannot farm out your social media. You cannot hire it out. You cannot outsource it. If it is not you, you're missing the point. It's like having somebody else, go spend time with your family in your place. It doesn't work like that. It's either you or it's a waste.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Wow, Chad. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was a lot of fun, deep diving a bit more into specifically just one platform, which is Instagram, and kind of how you go through that process. So we really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being on today's episode.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was fun.
Of course. Dan, thanks for co-hosting as always.
Great to meet you, Chad, and another great one.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks to all the reviewers and listeners, as it is our intention for you to take things that you learn from our show to apply to your business, have more massive success. Be sure to comment below with now what you learn. Go follow Chad and check out his videos. I definitely think you can maximize some of the things that he's doing, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching Real Estate vs. Technology, this week's brand new episode, and making it to the end, your real one. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified for new episodes that come out every single week on Fridays at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Also, if you comment on this episode and you like the episode, you'll help this episode get out to more individuals. And if you want to join our Facebook group page, just click a link. It's a Facebook icon on our profile page here on our YouTube channel. Join our group page, network with individuals all across the world, and share what technology you're using to grow your business. The next link is to join our Real Estate vs. Technology brand new IG or Instagram page. If you go on any of our stories, you can see who's going to be on Real Estate vs. Technology before it actually goes live on our YouTube channel. And the last link would be if you want to be on an episode of Real Estate vs. Technology. You pick a date and a time. We'll deep dive into your story and technology you're using to share that with other individuals that view our episodes weekly to inspire, enlighten, show up, and show out for people that love to watch these type of podcasts to have more success in their own business. Thank you so much for your continued support. We appreciate it. We will see you on the next one.